It was supposed to be the perfect Christmas night. Snow fell softly over the quiet town of Willow Creek, coating the streets in a serene white blanket. The Harper family home on Maple Drive glowed warmly, a beacon of holiday cheer. Inside, the sound of laughter, holiday music, and the rustle of wrapping paper painted a picture of pure bliss. But by morning, that same house stood silent, lights still twinkling, the Christmas tree still aglow, and stockings still hung over the fireplace. But the family was gone. No sign of struggle. No footprints in the snow leading away from the house. No call for help. Just an eerie stillness that would haunt Willow Creek for decades to come. The Harpers were the kind of family everyone admired. Michael Harper, a respected doctor at the local hospital. His wife, Laura, a beloved elementary school teacher. And their 2 children, 14-year-old Emily, a quiet, bookish girl, and 8-year-old Noah, whose boundless energy kept the whole neighborhood entertained. They had just hosted their annual Christmas dinner, a tradition that drew in neighbors, friends, and family alike. By all accounts, the night had been perfect. Guests had left around 10 p.m., exchanging cheerful goodbyes in the crisp winter air. The last text Laura sent to her sister at 10:42 p.m. read simply, "Best Christmas ever. Love you. Talk tomorrow." That would be the last anyone would ever hear from her. When the Harpers didn't show up at the church's Christmas breakfast the next morning, no one thought much of it. Maybe they had overslept, or maybe they were taking a rare morning to themselves. But when Laura's sister, Diane, stopped by around noon with a tin of cookies, the house told a different story. The front door was unlocked. The radio in the kitchen was still playing softly. The table was still set with half-empty cups of cocoa. But there was no sign of the family. No coats missing from the rack, no car gone from the driveway, and no sound except for the faint hum of the furnace. Something about the scene felt wrong. By 3 p.m., the police were at the house. Sheriff Marcus Reed, a man with 30 years of experience, walked through the Harper home with a tight jaw. "No signs of forced entry," he muttered, inspecting the still-burning fireplace and the wrapped gifts scattered around the living room. No broken windows. No blood. Nothing. Neighbors stood huddled in the snow outside, whispering theories that made the icy air feel even colder. Some said maybe the family had gone on an impromptu trip. Others whispered about a stalker, someone who had been watching them, waiting for the perfect moment. And then there were those who brought up the legend, the old story about the woods beyond Willow Creek, where people claimed they'd seen strange lights on Christmas night, and where some swore people vanished without a trace. By nightfall, search parties had been organized. Flashlights pierced the thick blanket of darkness as volunteers combed through the snow-covered woods, calling out the family's names. "Emily, Noah, can you hear us?" But the only answer was the wind howling through the trees. Back at the Harper house, Detective Sarah Collins sat alone in the living room, reviewing the security footage from the cameras outside. She played the tape from Christmas night again and again. At 11:23 p.m., Michael Harper could be seen stepping out onto the porch, phone in hand, speaking to someone. He appeared calm. At 11:47 p.m., the lights in the living room flickered once, then twice, before going completely dark for exactly 7 seconds. When they came back on, the porch was empty, and then nothing, no movement, no sounds, just silence. By the time the clock struck midnight, The Harper case had already gripped the small town in fear. Parents kept their children close, locking their doors and double-checking windows. Rumors swirled, some rational, some wild, but no one had an answer for what had happened on that snowy Christmas night. And somewhere deep in the woods where the searchers wouldn't dare to go, something or someone watched and waited. Snow blanketed Willow Creek in an unsettling silence. The town, once alive with the warmth and laughter of the holiday season, now pulsed with fear. The Harpers' disappearance had morphed from an unthinkable tragedy into a nightmare with no end in sight. The once picturesque house on Maple Drive sat like a ghost, lights still glowing, stockings still hanging, the faint hum of the furnace still running, as though waiting for its family to return. The police, desperate for leads, had turned the Harper home upside down. Every drawer, every closet, every inch of property was scoured for evidence, but each sweep turned up nothing. No signs of a break-in, no blood, no struggle. It was as though the family had simply ceased to exist. Sheriff Marcus Reed leaned over the kitchen counter, staring at the mug of cocoa left untouched by the sink. The marshmallows had melted into a sticky foam, clinging to the ceramic. It was a haunting reminder that, just hours before, the family had been here, laughing, celebrating, alive. Someone took them, he said finally, his voice low and tight. Families don't just vanish. Detective Sarah Collins, standing across from him, shook her head. Then why no sign of a struggle? Why no tracks in the snow? It's like they walked out the door and evaporated. As night fell again over Willow Creek, the second day of searching yielded no answers. Over 100 volunteers, police officers, and even neighboring county deputies had combed through every inch of the woods, down to the frozen riverbanks and the abandoned mill on the edge of town. But the woods were different. Locals whispered that strange things happen out there after dark. Stories of hunters hearing children laughing in the distance, of lights flickering between the trees, of shadows that move against the snow when no one was there. Fairy tales, Marcus had once said, laughing off the stories told at bonfires and sleepovers. But as the sun disappeared and darkness swallowed the town, even the seasoned sheriff felt something, a gnawing unease he couldn't quite explain. Diane, Laura's sister, refused to leave the house. She sat on the living room couch, gripping her phone as though waiting for a call that would never come. "They didn't run," she whispered, her eyes red and swollen. "Laura wouldn't just leave. Not without telling me. Not with the kids." Sarah knelt beside her. "We're going to find them. I promise you that." But the detective's voice cracked on the last word, and Diane caught it. "Promise." Diane repeated softly, her gaze drifting to the family photo above the fireplace. Laura and Michael sitting on the porch swing. Emily perched on her father's knee, Noah clinging to his mother's arm. A perfect family, frozen in time. On the third night, something strange happened. One of the volunteers, a young man named Tyler Hughes, swore he saw something in the woods. "It was a light," Tyler stammered, his breath visible in the icy air as he recounted the story to the sheriff. "Not like a flashlight. Brighter. It was floating, and there was this sound like singing. Kids singing." Sheriff Reed exchanged a look with Sarah. "Where?" "By the old bridge," Tyler said, his voice trembling. "I followed it for a few minutes, but then it just vanished, like it was never there." Reed dismissed it as exhaustion. The search parties have been running nearly nonstop, after all. But that night, as he sat alone in his truck, the radio crackled to life. Static at first, then faintly like a whisper. "Help us?" He froze, gripping the receiver. "Who is this? Repeat, who is this?" The static hissed again, louder this time, followed by a soft, unmistakable voice. "Sheriff, please." And then silence. By Christmas week, the Harper's case had exploded beyond Willow Creek. Reporters swarmed the small town, their camera lights flashing across the snow as theories ran wild on national news. Some blamed a serial kidnapper. Others insisted it was a cult. A few even suggested supernatural forces. But nothing prepared the town for what came next. On the seventh day, just after dawn, a local hiker found something half buried in the snow near the wood's edge. A red mitten, frozen stiff, the name Noah stitched in neat, careful letters across the cuff. Diane collapsed when she saw it. "It's his," she sobbed, clutching the mitten to her chest. "Oh, God, it's Noah's." The search was immediately intensified in that area. Dogs were brought in, their barks echoing through the forest as they caught a faint scent trail leading deeper into the woods. The trail stopped abruptly near the base of a gnarled oak tree, a tree some locals claimed was cursed, the site of a tragedy from decades ago. Carved into bark, fresh and deep, was a single word. By now, the town was unraveling. Parents kept their children inside. Schools shut down early for winter break. And at night, more and more residents reported seeing strange lights flickering through the forest. Sarah, unable to shake the feeling that they were missing something, spent hours reviewing the Harper security footage again. Every time, her eyes were drawn to the same moment. 11:47 p.m., the lights flickering, the camera glitching for exactly 7 seconds. 7 seconds. It was as if something or someone was interfering with the house that night. And then, while scrubbing to the footage frame by frame, she saw it. A shadow, not the shadow of a person, but something taller, thinner, almost distorted, standing at the edge of the frame just before the power flickered. Her stomach turned cold. By New Year's Eve, the FBI had been called in. Dozens of agents, forensic experts, and specialists descended on Willow Creek, setting up command posts and analyzing every shred of evidence. But with each passing day, hope dwindled. The Harpers were gone. Completely, utterly gone. And then, just when the town began to lose faith, another message came. It was late, just after midnight, when the call came through the police scanner. Static at first, then a voice, faint and trembling. "Help us." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Who is this? Identify yourself." "Emily, please don't let him find us." The signal cut out, leaving only static and silence. Fear gripped Willow Creek tighter than the icy winter air. Whatever had taken the Harpers wasn't finished, and in the shadows of the woods, beyond where the search teams dared to tread, something moved, watching, waiting, because the Harpers weren't the first to vanish in Willow Creek, and they wouldn't be the last. The first day of the new year brought no relief to Willow Creek. Snow still clung stubbornly to the trees, and the Harper house remained frozen in time, a shrine to the night everything changed. But by January 2nd, something shifted. It started with a scream. Two hikers, combing the woods at dawn, stumbled upon something buried in the frost. Sheriff Marcus Reed was on the scene within 20 minutes, his boots crunching over ice as he ducked under the yellow tape. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. It wasn't a body. It was a door, a weathered wooden door, standing upright in the middle of the woods, untouched by snow despite the storm that had swept through days earlier. No frame, no hinges, just a door freestanding, etched with strange symbols that shimmered faintly under the weak morning light. And in the snow at its base, the small scarf, red, the initials YH stitched delicately in the corner. Emily Harper's scarf. By noon, the site was swarming with FBI agents, local deputies, and a handful of reporters who'd managed to sneak past the barricades. But the door was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. "Is this some kind of prank?" one officer muttered, snapping photos. Detective Sarah Collins shook her head, eyes locked on the strange markings. They weren't random. No, there was a pattern, deliberate and almost rhythmic, like an invitation. "Nothing about this is a prank," she whispered. The temperature around the door was noticeably different, warmer, almost humid, despite the freezing air. Equipment malfunctioned near it. Cameras flickered, radios hissed with static, and compasses spun wildly in every direction. And then came the noise, a soft humming, almost melodic, seeping through the cracks of the door. Sheriff Reed stood stiff, his hand hovering near his holster. "No one goes near it until we know what we're dealing with," he barked, though his voice betrayed a tremor. But Sarah ignored him, drawn by something she couldn't explain. She stepped closer, her boots crunching softly over the snow, her breath fog in the icy air as she laid her palm against the wood. For a moment, there was silence. And then, "Sarah," the voice was faint but unmistakable. "Emily Harper." Her eyes widened. "Emily? Is that you? Where are you? Help us." The voice cracked, breaking into a sob. "Please, before he finds us." Sarah jerked back, heart hammering. "It's them," she whispered, turning to the sheriff. "They're alive. They're on the other side." Within hours, experts were brought in, linguists, physicists, even a team specializing in unexplained phenomena. They studied the markings, tested the soil, ran thermal scans. Everything pointed to one impossible conclusion. The door wasn't just a door. It was a passage, and it had been here before. One of the older residents, Agnes Monroe, confirmed it. She hobbled to the barricade, her cane sinking into the snow as she spoke in a trembling voice. "I've seen it before," she rasped. "When I was a girl, Christmas Eve, 1963. The Johnson boy went missing. Folks said he ran away, but I heard it, the humming, and I saw the door. Just like this. They never found him." Her warning sent a chill through the crowd. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She sat in her office, staring at the evidence board, a maze of photos, notes, and timelines all leading to the same place. The woods. The door. At 3:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. A text message, unknown number. "If you want to save them, come alone." Attached was a single image. The Harper family, standing in the woods, their faces pale, their eyes wide with fear. And behind them, the figure, tall, thin, its face obscured by shadow, but its eyes glowing faintly, like embers in the dark. By dawn, Sarah was back in the woods, alone, the snow crunching beneath her boots. The door stood waiting, the symbols glowing brighter now, as though aware of her presence. "Emily," she called, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The humming grew louder, almost deafening now, and then, click, the door swung open. Blinding light flooded through, warm and almost inviting. And beyond the light, she saw them, Laura clutching Noah, tears streaking her frozen cheeks. Emily standing beside them, her eyes pleading. "Help us, please," Emily whispered, her voice cracking. Before a shadow loomed behind them, tall and twisting, its movements unnaturally fluid. "Run," Sarah shouted. But before she could take another step, the door slammed shut, the sound echoing like thunder through the woods. For hours, the woods were silent. Search teams found no trace of Sarah Collins, no footprints in the snow, nothing but the door, now sealed shut. Sheriff Reed stood there long after the others had left, staring at the symbols carved into the wood, now faint and fading like dying embers. "She knew the risk," he muttered, his voice breaking. "God help her, she knew." Weeks later, the snow began to thaw, but the Harper house remained empty, untouched. Some said they still heard voices in the woods at night, pleading, crying, warning. The FBI closed the investigation, citing unresolved anomalies. The media moved on, but the people of Willow Creek didn't. They avoided the woods. They whispered about the door, and they prayed they'd never see it again. But on the following Christmas Eve, a child walking home from church claimed she saw a light in the distance. A light and the faint sound of children singing. And so, the story of the Harpers became legend in Willow Creek. Some believe they're still out there, trapped on the other side, waiting. Others believe they're gone forever. But every year, when the first snow falls, the woods hum with that same strange melody. And everyone in Willow Creek locks their doors and waits for the night to pass. Because they know the door always comes back. And one year, it won't just be the Harpers it takes.